And you should be able to change the visualization for channels too, or co-channel interference or something instead of airtime, and it'll give you a look at that too. There you go, channel interference. No noise. That's layer 1 interference. Let's change that. I think there's another option there. There should be. It's right above the first one you had highlighted. There we go. So now you get a look at the channelization and colors, and it's easier to tell visually if you have problems with that. Now we've only got the one AP there in the middle enabled for 2.4. So the others that are showing other colors there, that could be reflections from the other APs, weird signals bouncing around. If we had two on the same channel close to each other, you would see a problem there. And you can actually set that up as a design parameter when you're doing auto placement. You can put in the maximum number of APs that you want audible on the same channel. So this will give you a great start of where to start placing APs and different tools. It's a wonderful tool. In fact, there's a 4-day class from the vendor on how to use this tool. And we're just going through some of the tips and tricks and things to get you up and running quickly on it. There's a lot of stuff here.
So as we're looking at this now, this is signal strength based on the AP. And you can go into an area, let's just say we're in the hallway right here, and hover your arrow over that area, and you can kind of get a visualization of what the coverage looks like in that area. As you move it around, it'll show you that as well. So that's important when you're kind of looking at areas that need a specific signal strength. Or you can tell in that area here, we've got 1, 2, 3 that are better than neg 60, and the rest are below neg 60. So from a 5 gigahertz perspective, we're doing pretty good.
So it's important to know what those strengths are from the AP's perspective. So they'll be able to hear each other. And if you're using auto channel and auto power, they can turn their power up and down as necessary if an AP goes offline. But it's also important to know what this is going to look like to the clients, because the network is built for the clients, not for the APs. And where you are now, that's the view selection mode. Toggle that on.
By the way, it's Control Option left click.
Ah, there we go. So now you're able to view that as the device instead of viewing it as the AP. And that's the perspective we want to look at in our design. Now, no matter how great your design is, you still want to validate that. And the best validation is using the actual devices that customer is going to be using in that space to see how the applications and the devices respond in all the areas. But before you do that, the visualizations will give you a better idea of what to expect in those spaces. So what are we seeing it as now? As a mobile device.
We're as a mobile device. So if we change this, now we're measured. You can see measured. This area right here as measured is pretty good. But if we were a client, that area there does not hit at the neg 67 or
and that's
better.
Because the client radios are not the same quality as the access point radios. And that'll always be the case now. It used to be back in the late 90s, early 2000s when everybody was using a PCMCA card. Some of the APs use the same card as a client, so they're always the same. But it hasn't been that way in 2 decades. So the visualization from the client side is really important to understand if that client's going to work or not, and if the applications they're running are going to work or not. And if you change the view from signal strength to anything else, you can still look at it from the client perspective, but you still need to make sure it's going to work from that perspective as well. If it's not working from the client view, then you need to turn the power up on some APs, move some APs around, or maybe add an AP. And that area where you were, where it was gray earlier, that's in the stairwell. And some customers are fine saying, yeah, if you're in the stairwell, you're in the stairwell. It may not work right. But others want coverage in there because they're using RFID tags on their name badges, and they need to track where employees are at all times in case there's an emergency. So you may need to bleed some more coverage in there by adding some more access points around the stairwell.